What's up, guys? It's the Game Bro coming back to you a day late and a dollar short with another F1 review of the Qatar Grand Prix. A lot going on leading into this. It's the last of a triple header coming to the new Losail circuit, normally a MotoGP track, and would sign a long 10-year deal. They're taking next year off for the World Cup and then potentially started a street circuit in 23 on. The title battle really swinging towards the Mercedes side of things with Lewis after Brazil, really waking up the lion, as they said. The new Mercedes engine on the higher mode, just absolutely killer, but I don't think they're running that this weekend and saving it for the power-hungry Saudi Arabia track in 2 weeks and then a final showdown in Abu Dhabi. Ferrari pulling clear of McLaren in the midfield battle. The upgrades that they've brought to their recovery system and just little stuff here and there have pulled clear of McLaren and really are going to prove dividends probably for next year as well. Also announced this week, Giovinazzi, no surprise, out at Alpha for Guan Yu Zhou. I think that was tipped off a little earlier the week before when Guan Yu Zhou and a billboard of him at an Alpha dealer in China was seen. So we also had the lap 48 incident from Brazil reopened by Mercedes, but was dismissed as well. Red Bull threatened against the rear wing of Mercedes, threatening a protest, little lines and score marks on the rear wing. And we got 3 races to go in the title battle with, like I said, the momentum switching towards Mercedes. So without further ado, let's get into the action with FP1. With the 3 hardest Pirelli tires on offer, first practice saw all but Nikita Mazepin and Sergio Perez see first laps on the new circuit, with the old record held by Nico Hülkenberg. Early retirements for Hamilton and Stroll with technical issues, as championship rival Verstappen would finish P1 ahead of surprising Gasly and Hamilton, with the AlphaTauris both looking very quick. Under the lights in a quali-type setting, Nikita Mazepin would sit out after a chassis swap from curd damage in the first practice. Red Bull would also see both cars need rear wing repair again, but the AlphaTauri junior team looked to be on point really fast again. Valtteri Bottas would finish P1 ahead of Gasly and Verstappen and Hamilton in 4th. It's Saturday in final practice ahead of qualifying. Track temps are way up from the impending qualifying session, so not quite sure what to expect, but again, Bottas would be P1, followed by Hamilton and Verstappen. The session saw spins from Leclerc and Schumacher with another stop by Mazepin, and apparent power unit issue headed into qualifying just in 2 hours' time. It's qualifying now, we're under the lights, and it's time for Q1. Track limits became an issue on the first runs, but would see Raikkonen, Latifi, Giovinazzi, and Schumacher, with Mazepin all being eliminated. Huge shock of a session saw major struggles by Leclerc knocked out, as well as Perez on the soft tire to everyone's surprise, Stroll, Ricciardo, and Russell. After qualifying, Ferrari would find a crack in the chassis and begin a change for the race. Now it's time for the session that counts with Q3. In the first run, Hamilton would take provisional pole ahead of Max and Bottas by only a 1/10.5. On the final run, Lewis would better his time and take pole with a 1:28.27, a near-perfect lap with yellows coming out due to Gasly's puncture from the front wing. P2 would be Max, followed by Bottas, Gasly, Alonso, Norris, Sainz, Tsunoda, Ocon, and Vettel, with investigations about the yellows after. It's Sunday, is race day, and before the race it was announced that Verstappen and Bottas would both get grid drops for their yellow infractions in Q3 on Saturday. Hamilton gets a great start from Gasly and Alonso, who would get around the AlphaTauri the same lap. By lap 5, Verstappen is already back to second from 7th, limiting the damage. On lap 16, Perez would get his Red Bull in the 4th and begin to hunt down Alonso, and on lap 29 would complete the pass. On lap 34, Bottas's race would come unraveled with a puncture and would soon see him retire with a couple laps to go. On lap 42, Perez would come in for his second stop and start his charge back towards the podium positions. On lap 51, Russell would have a similar puncture to Bottas, and a lap later his teammate Latifi would suffer the same, bringing out the virtual safety car. Max would come in for a set of softs to better his fastest lap for a cheap VSC stop. Hamilton would go on to take an easy win and go back-to-back, tightening up the title battle. Max would finish P2 ahead of Fernando Alonso, his first podium in 7 years. The rest of the points finishers were Perez, Ocon, Stroll, Sainz, Leclerc, Norris, and Vettel, with again Max taking the fastest lap. In the driver standings, Max's lead is now only 8 points ahead of the charging Hamilton. 3rd, 4th, and 5th remain unchanged, but Leclerc is now only a point behind Norris. In the constructors, Mercedes only has a 5-point lead over Red Bull. Could have been less after a poor showing by Bottas. The battle for 3rd saw Ferrari pull further away from McLaren, and Alpine, with their good runs, would pull 25 points clear of the AlphaTauris. So, what did I think of it? All in all, not a bad race. Kind of saw the writing on the wall here, but you can only imagine what could have been if Max didn't get that penalty. The Red Bull race pace actually looked pretty sharp, and even the front wing damage that he seemed to have, it looks like he at times could match the pace of Hamilton. He would have went down the inside turn 1, which was the one passing opportunity, but the start of the race would have been awesome to see them get their elbows out a little bit. the 2 and 1 stop race strategies. Really saw the 1 stop guys really struggling towards the end of the runs with their tires, and with some of the punctures, maybe change some of these guys to a 2 stop strategy towards the end. You saw Norris, slow puncture there. But either way, that second pit stop for Perez and some of the traffic that he got put out on cost him a penalty, cost him a podium. And I think it would have been a 3-point lead for Mercedes if not for that. The curbs were lethal on the front wings and the chassis this weekend. That second serrated edge of the curbs on some of those high-speed ones were just really sharp, and as the tires wore, they punctured immediately if parts of the wing hit them. And Hamilton, just again, I don't think he had the engine from last week in the car, and they're saving it, but the straightaway speeds for both the cars were actually pretty comparable, but Mercedes just had all-around better pace. And, if he gets the win next week or 2 weeks in Saudi Arabia and the fastest lap, you're going into Abu Dhabi with them tied. And do we get to see some crazy shit happen at the end of the season going into Abu Dhabi? Maybe some turn 1 flares to, force them to finish in a tie and Max get the title on wins. That'd be crazy. Could you imagine the title battle come down to that? The Constructors' title. Titans, surprisingly. I said last week I thought it was going towards Mercedes, but with Bottas, terrible start, and then not being able to do shit in the midfield and just really did not look right this weekend. Toto's coming on the radio trying to will him on. I think, if anything, that made it worse. But, on a track where we thought the overtaking was going to be tough, even though it was only in turn 1, we got a lot of good overtakes. A lot of guys really diving into turn 1 and overdoing it sometimes and seeing some overtaken back afterwards. So I think it was actually a pretty good race, all things considered, for what we were expecting. Alpine, man, where did they come from? They looked fast this weekend. Alonso podium, great to see, great for the sport, good language after in the interviews, but they pull clear of AlphaTauri by 25 points now with 2 races to go. And even though Gasly, terrible race, starting on the softs did not work for him, the 2-stop did not work for him, and no points for either of them. So you also got to think what could have been if not for Max's penalty. Again, great race pace. Would have loved to have seen that. I think everyone would have loved to have seen that, and it kind of sucks to see that even with Bottas too, the penalty's so late. But hey, 2 races to go. We got Saudi Arabia in 2 weeks. Who does that favor? We saw the Red Bulls run really good at a Baku-like circuit earlier this year, but now Mercedes have that engine in their pocket, no penalties. Is there a way that Red Bull could maybe take a penalty to get a new engine and squeeze some sort of performance out in the hopes of just going heads up in Abu Dhabi the week after? If they could do that, that would be opportune, because they probably could get back to at least second with a fresh engine and penalties next race and just try to go for it. But hey, we got 2 races to go. Max and Lewis looking back on the season, what could have been missed opportunities. You got to think of like Baku for both of them. Max leading, tire puncture, and then Hamilton just bonsaiing the first corner and falling out of the points. Hungary, the opportunity for both of them. Max crashed there and damage limitation, got nothing. And Lewis with that iconic moment of him being the only car out on the grid. That's a couple moments to just look back on and be like, wow, could be a decider. And all the fastest laps that you have, them taking it away. It shows that it matters. So until we get to Saudi Arabia in 2 weeks, I've been the Game Bro. Hope you've enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you after the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix. Good night, everybody.